Hey guys, and welcome back to Beating the Press podcast. In today's transfer window special, we'll be talking West Ham. We'll also be talking Arsenal and asking the question, have they blew the top four? We'll also be talking Everton, Deli, Alli, Van de Beek, and we'll also be rounding up everything else that's happened in the transfer window. So before we get started, first let me introduce you to my brilliant co-host, Ty. How are you doing? You all right?
Hi guys, yeah, I'm good, thank you. Thank you for calling me brilliant. It's the only one that's ever called me it, and I appreciate it. Thank you for being my other brilliant co-host.
And if you don't watch it regularly, I'm Kristian, and we normally talk about football and all that good stuff. So if you're not subscribed, why aren't you subscribed? Just click that subscribe button. It'll take you 2 seconds to do it. And if you like football, well, you clearly do because you're here. So if you click on the subscribe button, that'd be brilliant. So first, we're just going to jump straight in, Ty. So straight away, West Ham, no signings. Arsenal, no signings. It was very clear that West Ham fans were hoping to get a striker because, obviously without Mikel Antonio, not the most reliable injury-wise. If he goes down, they're going to be struggling. Aubameyang's obviously left Arsenal and left them with Nketiah and Lacazette. Do you think they've blew top four?
I think West Ham were dead anyway. West Ham were not going to make it. So I think it's, I don't think them getting a striker would have made enough of a difference because the other three teams they're up against, I'd expect them to finish front. I mean, I'd expect Spurs and Arsenal to finish higher than anyway. But it's was it Gold and Sullivan in it at West Ham, and it's just the way they do business. It's nothing new. They're hoping to extract as much as they can with what the squad they've got. So no, I'm not surprised. As a West Ham fan, I'd be disappointed. And I've got a mate who's West Ham. Hi, Mike. He does listen occasionally. I'd be disappointed. Arsenal, I think this is going to sound stupid, but I think they're going to think of it as a bit of a success. The fact they've got Aubameyang off the books.
The board would see it as a success.
Yeah, but I mean, Arteta's written him off on it. He said he don't want him part of the team anymore, and for him to find a club is basically not. And for him, then there's a second bit as well. If he didn't go, then at some point he'd have had to use him, and then he's sort of going back on his words. You lose a bit of respect with the players. So I think it's kind of worked out all right that Aubameyang's gone. Them not getting another striker in, especially because I think that's what they're short on, probably a centre midfielder as well, because they have. And they've lost Callum Chambers as well, so they've lost a couple of players, but not really. They've not bought anyone. Well, they haven't bought anyone of them. Yeah, so I think
the thing
they
is,
potentially.
Arteta's obviously known that Aubameyang's not going to be part of his plans anytime soon. So why do you think they haven't planned for a backup striker? Because regardless, it looked like he wasn't involved in his plans.
Yeah.
So to leave him to go on the day of the transfer deadline there and not replace is.
The simple answer to that is just one word, isn't it? Arsenal. It's just Arsenal, isn't it? When have they ever made sense with anything they do in the transfer market? Do you know what I mean? Anything they do that the board's involved. I completely get what you're about, but I think what they're probably thinking is they've got Lacazette, they've got Nketiah was not great, but was a backup, and then they can potentially play Martinelli down the middle as well. Do you know what I mean? So they have, they're probably thinking more of wider players or Martin Odegaard, someone like that, who could potentially play as a false nine, and it gets them through this season. But I think they're really light in attacking areas, not attacking in the for your number 9, and then midfield as well. Do you know what I mean? I mean, Xhaka's Xhaka, and then you got Partey and that. I just think they're a bit light in those areas as well. Their first 11 I think is good, but then it's always what's on the knock-on effect of that. But then there is that old adage as well. It's not a good time to do any business in January because you either get ripped off or you end up with absolute shit. So
they were in for a couple of players, weren't they, at Arsenal?
I think were they not in for I think they were in for Dembele as well, weren't they, from Barca? But I don't think he wanted to go or something went wrong, with the terms. And if that was an option for him, I've heard Laporte today saying, John Laporte, Barca's president, saying there was a Premier League club in for him, but Dembele turned it down. Don't know which club that was. But the rumours.
I heard that Chelsea were interested. But I read a lot of the fan forums, and it was surprising that a lot of fans, I think the majority of fans from each and every one of the top clubs, didn't really fancy Dembele. You know, I don't know whether it's because of his injury record or whatever, but it was kind of like none of the fans that I was reading seemed to want him. But just moving back to West Ham, obviously they were, I think, were they not interested in Calvin Phillips? 50 million bid?
Come on, Calvin Phillips ain't going to go to West Ham, is he? From Leeds.
No,
you know what I mean? It's like I think Calvin Phillips is one of those players. His next step is going to be top four. You know what I mean? Someone challenging for the Champions League, someone challenging for the Premier League. But with all due respect, West Ham, you know what I mean? Get back in your box. You're not getting Phillips.
I thought it was a bit of a cheeky bid, like if it was, you know, a £50 million bid, but the rumours were obviously that, you know, they were doing it just to appease the fans, just to make it look like they're doing something.
Right. Yeah.
Because 50 million doesn't seem like any form of respectable bid. But just finishing on Arsenal and West Ham, you know, bear in mind, Arsenal have not got anything else to play for other than the Premier League. And, you know, obviously West Ham have got Europe, a bit of a run. I'm presuming that's why you're saying that they're unlikely to finish in the top four. Do you see Arsenal as a more likely finisher in the top four?
Yeah, and I think it's between Arsenal, Spurs, and Man United who gets that final spot. I do like, and we'll speak about Spurs in a bit, but I do like the business they've done. Especially after the knock back from what Liverpool took the player up under their noses. So yeah, no, I think West Ham are dead. I think they were, even if they bought someone really good, I think they'd have struggled to get there. But yeah, no, I think Arsenal may regret not bringing a cover for a 9.
Yeah. So yeah, moving on to Everton. They seem to have done quite a lot of business on transfer deadline day, including signing obviously their manager. It'd be interesting to see how much input Frank Lampard actually had into the signings that I'm about to read out. Obviously, they signed El Ghazi on loan. They signed.
I think that was Rafa Benitez, wasn't it? That one.
Oh right, yes. So Donny van de Beek and Deli Alli more specifically. What do you think of their business?
It feels like an Everton transfer window. There's literally no thought behind it at all. You've got a manager at the start of the month, we'll get El Ghazi in on loan. You've got a manager on transfer deadline day, we'll bring in Deli Alli and Van de Beek. Both similar kind of position players. You've already got Doucouré and Allen. What about a striker for Calvert-Lewin? What about your defense? Do you know what I mean? I just think there's no, and they got rid of the technical, the director of football, because Rafa said get rid of them. So they've got no one there thinking sort of succession planning. Deli Alli is shit. I don't care what anyone's saying. I'm not having him as I don't know. Him and Eric Dyer are both dog. Donny van de Beek, I think, is a player, and I think he'll do well. Just the fact that he'll get game time and time to play. I'm surprised Ralph Ranieri didn't give him any time either. But I just think it makes no sense. You know what I mean? I don't understand the long-term thinking behind it. I mean, Van der Beek's there for loan for 6 months. Deli Alli, what is Van der Beek going to end up being on the bench again and then be like, I'm going to go back to Man United? Do you know what I mean? I don't want Van der Beek still have signed if you knew they didn't get Deli Alli on top of Doucouré and Allen and Andre Gomez. You've got 5 centre midfielders there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's kind of like a signing for the fans. It's kind of like what you would do on Football Manager on the last day. Oh, that player is available. That player is available. Like they've got no thought into, you know, potentially replacing Digne, who obviously left earlier in the month. But yeah, just going on Lampard. What do you think of that appointment? Do you think it's a good appointment?
I mean, how's Lampard got a gig there? It's just straight. I mean, it's Everton in a mess. I mean, the whole, you know, they're not about getting rid of the board, getting rid of the owners. There's just no thought process, no thinking behind it. You've got rid of Rafa Benitez, and normally when you get a manager, you've got someone already lined up. They had an interview process with Vito Pereira. He goes on Sky Sports News and says, "Oh, I've been interviewed." Then Lampard goes in afterwards. You know what I mean? It's such a complete and utter mess. And what's Lampard done? He didn't do anything with Derby. You know, they lost a playoff game, and then at Chelsea, he's got a brilliant squad. Halfway through the season, the mid-table, 2 kill takes over, and they win the Champions. Do you know what I mean? And that's where Chelsea. It's not like they've come in and he's bought a load of new players. So I just think his English is, you know, that's why he seems to be getting credit. And I put a tweet out. I said Lampard's going to end up being the new sort of Alan Pardew. You know what I mean? That sort of manager. Tony Pulis is, you know, the ones who just get recycled. Steve Bruce who just get recycled over and over again because they're English and they played for England one time. Do you know what I mean? And they were good players. And just living off that, he's not. I mean, Everton want to be. You know, how do you go from Ancelotti and Benitez to Lampard? You know what I mean? I mean, that's just. And then your signings are just all over the place. Your recruitment's all over the place. Everything's just a mess. It just needs a. I mean, the owners put a lot of money. I think it's about $500 million, and you obviously want some sort of return on that. But he needs football people around him. Do you know, actual not ex-players that were good, that want to get their two pennies worth. You want actual football people that know how to run a club. And I think they just
say that Mashiri's done like a masterclass on how not to run like a football club when you first go in there. Like, and you know, I think it was a Pereira, the other manager, did you say, that went for the job? It was the first time I'd ever seen a manager that the fans wanted out before he was even actually in. And it was like Pereira out, Lampard in, like it was spray painted on a wall. Like, really? You know, you could have chose any number of names and you wanted Lampard in. That's beyond me. But last question on this, did they actually have any footballing people? Is there a director of football that you know of?
Well, they didn't. They had one. Rafa Benitez said he wanted to get rid of him, and they got rid of him. And then about a month later, they got rid of Rafa Benitez because the fans wanted him out. Do you know what I mean? There's literally nothing. There's no planning. There's no. I don't know. You know, they're just a mess. But to be fair,
the next most important signing is probably a director of football. And you know, that's something maybe that they'll look to get him before the end of the season to plan ahead for the next.
We'll move on to to Liverpool next, and I'll ask you a question. This is a lad you obviously know well, so I'll do the one that didn't get over the line, Fabio Carvalho from Fulham. I know we tried to do it lastminute.com last night, and everything seemed to go through, and it was just the EFL don't have like a late, you know, with Premier League you can have like an hour, or you can have a certain amount of time after the deadline to submit your paperwork, or deal sheet as they call it, but EFL don't have it, so that's why it didn't get through. But I think it'll with him. They're going to buy him and loan him back to Fulham anyway to the end of the season, so I can't see it too much of an issue, and they'll get him at the end of the season, which is fine. Nico Williams obviously gone to loan at Fulham. I think that was part of the deal, but Fulham obviously got Nico Williams, but Liverpool didn't get Carvalho on this line. With the big one, one of the biggest signing of the summer, I'd say, of the window, I'd say, Luis Diaz coming into Liverpool from. We nicked him off Spurs, which is what big clubs do generally, and we've come in, we've paid the money what needs to be paid, and again, it sounds like a good deal. But what are your thoughts on him? Because like, I mean, we've obviously been WhatsApping, and I didn't know much about him. I've seen his goals and stuff, but I've not seen him play. So, what do you think? Tell us, what do you think? What are your thoughts on him?
I think it's nice to actually be like, don't get me wrong, we've always been the big club. We've always been the biggest club along with Man United in England. But in the past, obviously, Tottenham took, you know, they originally went to take Willian off us, and then obviously Chelsea took Willian off them. And, you know, I think maybe Ericsson might have been one of ours at one point. And, you know, if a club like Tottenham can take a player off you, it shows what kind of a situation we were in previously. And now it's a case of, you know, obviously we're nicking players off them, which is absolutely so satisfying. And this is a player that I feel like I should have known more about, just by looking at what he's done. You know, obviously everybody looks great on YouTube. You put a compilation of me misses, she probably looked great, a great signing. But like I obviously saw the Manchester City game where he scored that goal, and that was a goal that did stand out, but I didn't really know too much about him. But just looking into him, and, you know, I don't like to look at just the highlights. I like to look at, you know, like highlights of a specific game, like a full game, you know, like the 0 to 90, and he just looks ideal for us. He just looks so good. Like it almost seems like a perfect fit, and it just goes to show that our guys know what they're doing. They pick a certain type of player, certain type of background. He seems very humble, and, you know, it just makes me wonder what's going on with Sadio Mane. Is this like a phasing out, or is it just basically to plump that forward line up? What about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I heard a Portuguese expert, I think it was on Twitter, and he was saying they're signed the best player in Portugal. He's brilliant, and and just going on your point about the recruitment, and I've mentioned how much of a mess Everton's is, and other clubs will just sort of have you just seem to buy players. So say Man United, prime example. There seems to be always Liverpool just don't buy players because the fans kick off or the social media or the trending on Twitter because get FSG out or anything. They've got a very clear strategy on what they want to do. They have a type of profile of player that they'll go and get. Luis Diaz obviously fits in that. He's young, and he's 25. They do that. A really important point you made there as well. They look at the background of the player, so he's really humble. Do you know what I mean? I read something about how much. He's obviously Colombian, but when he was growing up, how poor it was for him. Do you know what I mean? And it's similar stories.
Very underweight.
Yeah, similar stories to Salah and Mane. You know what I mean? What the sacrifices they did to get there, and it's not been given to. I mean, most footballers. I mean, that's not most. I'd say there's a certain amount of footballers who've obviously gone through the same sort of path, and it's been difficult, and especially those from sort of South America and Africa. But you see, there's a profile that they do a lot of research before they get there, and obviously there was they realised Spurs are coming in for him, and I think they wanted to get him in the summer, but that sort of obviously accelerated it, and it's a long-term target for him, so they've gone bang and in they bought him. I did hear something quite funny on Twitter. Spurs were trying to ring Liverpool, and Liverpool just ignored the phone for like a day.
Like 20 missed calls.
I know, yeah, 20 missed calls. That bitch won't even fucking leave me alone.
Daniel.
Wetting me.
just with obviously, like, we know our club is very organised, especially with this act. I'm just thinking of the Carvalho sign, and that seemed all very rushed, very last minute, and it surprised me that it kind of went down because we were linked with him maybe a couple of weeks back, and I thought that's one probably that they would have wrapped up earlier, but I'm wondering if the whole situation with Tottenham kind of interfered with that song, like maybe because
I mean I've watched I watched a few documentaries, and I've listened to a few people who have been involved in late transfers, and they said the thing with clubs is you can have something going for 2 weeks and whatever, everything gets congested into that last day. Do you know what I mean? So everything just gets bang, it gets, so you can plan it, then it's suddenly we've got a day left, now we've got it, so everything gets done, then it looks like it's rushed, but the stuff has been done before. So the Carvalho one's a bit frustrating because literally everything's been agreed and it's happy days, and then they need about another half an hour. You know what I mean? So it's
as I understand it, if he goes to a foreign club, they don't get a fee.
Yeah.
But if he goes to Liverpool, there'll be some form of a tribunal unless they can agree.
Yeah. So they agreed a fee. I think it was about 7 million or something. But from my understanding, he wants to go to Liverpool anyway. So I don't think there'll be too much. There ain't going to be too many problems with him coming to us at the end of the season. And he was going to go back to Fulham. It's not like we're going to lose him for any Fulham. It's not like we're going to buy him. We're not going to be able to use him now till the end of the season because he wasn't going to be with us anyway. And then obviously we've got rid of Nico Williams gone, and Nat Phillips has gone to Bournemouth as well. I'm glad he's gone. He needs to be playing him.
Yeah, I think they both definitely need some game time. Moving on to Tottenham. You mentioned earlier, obviously, we were quite impressed with their signings. Bentancur, that was a bit of a coup.
It is. I can't believe it's 20 million, and he's a player him as well. He's like really good. So and the Kulusevski's class as well. You know what I mean. So he's been at Juve. He's probably just not been given enough time to play, and he's a good player. So basically, again, it's Antonio Conte and Petriacci, the director of football. See, there's some sort of planning now and forward thinking with it. They've obviously gone, we're going to get rid of Deli Alli. Conte doesn't like him. And the thinking Conte is top manager, he's doing stuff that I saw these players are just not fit for Spurs. So he's gone in, got rid of him. And Deli Alli's gone to Everton. And Ndombele's gone to Lyon. Brian Hill's gone to Valencia. Lo Celso's gone to Valencia as well. Brian Hill's gone to Villarreal and Lo Celso. So Lo Celso, so they've got 4 players out effectively. And he's bought in Kulusevski and Bentancur, but they're both quality players. Do you know what I mean?
And the thing is, he nearly had Lewis as well.
Lewis Diaz as well. But I think he wanted to wing it out, and I actually think it was vital that Spurs got them 2 over the line, because I think if they didn't come over the line, there's a chance Conte would have walked. because he's got previous for that. Even at Inter, he said, I want these players. They said, no, I said, right, when I'm up. Do you know what I mean? So I think that they're big signings for Spurs, and I think they might actually, they'll push them real close to finishing those top four. And again, I think, there's another one as well. They've got Bergwijn was still there, and Conte really likes him as well. So there was talk about him going back to Ajax, but Conte's like, nice stage, you know what I mean? So I think good business for Spurs. Probably the best window they've had for a while. They've got rid of 4 players, and I can imagine getting a few others as well. But Conte is obviously coming mid-season. He's got 2 players, and I'd imagine he wanted a lot more. But it's a start for him, and I can see them this being the start of something good for Spurs, I think.
But just staying on that subject, obviously Man United didn't do any business over the transfer window, other than obviously the outgoings we talked about. Van der Beek, Lingard looks like unfortunately had to stay because of unfortunate circumstances there. But do you think out of the 2 of them, Tottenham, Man United, do you think this has any bearing on it, them transfers?
Yeah, I mean, you never know. It depends on how they sort of, hit the ground running, Kulusevski and Bentancur, but they're both an upgrade on what they're. I mean, Bentancur is definitely straight away is the best midfielder they've got. And Kulusevski is obviously a good winger as well. It depends. I think I don't know how he's going to, what positions he's going to play him, or how he's going to play him. I mean, he could play as a 10, but he's more of a winger. So it'd be interesting to see how he plays them. Man United, they've obviously lost Van der Beek. They've stopped the Lingard signing going through as well. And then obviously the stuff that's going on with Mason Greenwood as well. That's all, he won't be playing for Man United again, will he? And so they've obviously had to. I think that's probably played a part with the Lingard not going, because I think Newcastle were happy to pay the money that they needed to, but that didn't happen. So I think I mean, from Newcastle, from Arsenal, Spurs, and Man United, I think Spurs have definitely had the best window.
Yeah, I want to keep Newcastle to last, just because it's every football manager's dream. We'll go to Aston Villa as a penultimate team. They obviously signed Callum Chambers, Digne earlier in the transfer window, and Coutinho. They've had a really strong window as well, haven't they?
They have, and it's not. They managed to get Target out as well, haven't they? They bought players in that will come in and start for them. Do you know what I mean? That are going to go in, bang straight in, and improve the team. I think the Callum Chambers one's a really interesting one, because I don't think Steven Gerrard fancies Mings at all. And me and you both said it the same for quite a few times. We just know. I think Constance is obviously the best centre half they've got, but we don't fancy him at all. And I think Callum Chambers coming in is an interesting one, because he can play right back, we'll play centre half, but I think Matty Cash is a better right back than him, just because he's got good delivery. And I think it's a big part of modern fullbacks game. It's your delivery in the final third. Matty Cash and Callum Chambers' delivery, with all due respect, is fucking dog shit. So is he a call for centre half? But he's a Premier League player. Do you know what I mean? He's a decent Premier League player. So even if he doesn't start, he's a good call for the sort of centre halves and the fullback area. Coutinho one, I just think it was interesting, the game when they played against Everton. I think that's how he'll probably end up, and how they're going to play moving forward, with Watkins and Wendy and Coutinho as like sort of 10s. Do you know what I mean? As a double 10. And I think that could be quite interesting to see how they. And that's one of the reasons why they bought Lucas Digne, and I think to give you that real width, because obviously you're playing with 2 10s, narrow 10s, your width's going to come from your fullback areas. Like I said, Matty Cash has got good delivery on the right, and Digne is the same on the left. And I'd expect a lot from them too. So I think he's obviously got an idea of how he wants his team to play with the players he's got. So I think the window they've had has been really good. And they're obviously a club as well, with owners who've got plenty of money.
Yeah, just a question on Villa before we move on. With those signings in mind and where that Gerrard's clicking on, where do you expect them to finish? What would be a good season for them?
It's tough in it now, because he took over when they were 5 or 6 people doing near the bottom, weren't they? I think, if he somehow manages to finish top 8, I think it'd be a phenomenal season for him. But I think the top half finish will be more than good enough. And again, for him, it's planning for next season and having a real assault at, challenging for European places and maybe even nick a cup. But they're not going to be the only one. I think next season the whole picture of the teams will change again. If Newcastle stay up, I think the Premier League is just going to be what. We don't even know if Howe's going to be there as a manager. Well, I'd imagine, you'd sort of think he gets a go to stay there for a bit, but that'll just be, I think that'll be a series of podcasts, I think, if Newcastle stay up and how they're going to spend the money and who they're going to get in.
Yeah, so obviously the last team that we'll be covering in England is Newcastle. Now they've spent, close to, it might have been upwards of 90 million.
Yeah.
Do you first question? Actually, I've got two questions. The first question is, do you ever remember a team spending this amount of, well, not this amount of money, but spending on this many players? So obviously the signed Kieran Trippier, Chris Wood, you're gonna have to help me with this one, Bruno
Guimaraes.
Guimaraes.
Yeah.
Matt Targett and Dan Burn. And also the second question to that is, are these the players that are going to keep them up?
I mean, I can remember players. I can remember clubs spending lots of money on players and getting numbers in. That's not it. But I am actually impressed by the players they bought. There's been a clear focus on buying players with Premier League experience, which stands out. Good Premier League players. Kieran Trippier, obviously England international, solid. Just won the La Liga last year, the year before. And then Chris Wood as well, good centre forward. I mean, people are just, if you watch, I mean, just the fact he plays with Burnley, I think everyone seems to think he's shit, but he's a good player, Chris Wood. I mean, every time I watch him play, he causes teams problems. And then Matt Targett and Dan Burn. Dan Burn's a good footballing player. He can play left back, he can this and that. Matt Targett's an interesting one because I don't think he really, I don't know, is he an upgrade on, Paul Dummett? Is he an upgrade on Kieran Clark? Is he an upgrade on Matt Ritchie? Do you know what I mean? I don't think he's. I mean, he's all right. He's okay. I just don't. I think he's a fullback of sort of say yesteryear when he's decent at defending and he's strong and he's solid, but he's not going to give you much in the fight next to like the complete opposite him and Trippier. You know what I mean? Trippier's good defensively and he's brilliant in the final third, but Target's not really going to be able to deliver many balls with quality in the final third. So I don't know. That's the only one that I'm like, maybe not. But again, he'll do. I mean, he's better than Dummett. I think Dummett's dog shit, so he's better than Dummett and Clark. I mean, it's either Matt Ritchie or him in it. So there's probably. I mean, to be fair, if you think about it, they had a weakness in that area. They were having, sometimes Manquillo's playing left back when he's a right back. So I can understand the signing, and maybe they were obviously limited with who they could buy. But the interesting thing is, I think they have whoever's in charge of their signings is smart because they've not actually played massively over the odds for any of the players. Because I know Lingard, Man United wanted 12 million if they stayed up, and they walked away from that. That was a couple of weeks ago, and then obviously they were negotiating again, and to bring that down. So I mean, if they just wanted to buy players willy-nilly, they would have done. But they're just a bit more reserved and a bit more smarter.
I've got a mate who is probably watching this podcast at some point. He was not happy with other than Kieran Trippier. But my mate just so happens to go after names. I think he was expecting Haaland and the likes, you know what I mean? But like you said, they are sound signs. If you're Dubravka, you are feeling a lot more confident, with Kieran Trippier and Dan Burn, like Dan Burn in front of you. So they clearly have.
Do you remember that we had a podcast a while back when Newcastle and the Owners took over, and we said, you asked me the question. You said, what's the level of player they're going to go for? And who would you expect? And this is the exact level of player I'd expect them to go for. So they're walking up that trajectory. Like when Man United, when Man City, when all the others came, Man City, they bought the Elanos of the world. Do you know what I mean? And Benjanis, it didn't suddenly go, David Silva.
Yeah, the jaw.
Do you know what I mean? Exactly. Yeah. So you've got to be smart. So where you are and build up slowly. But no, I think they're the signings they bought, and I think that Bruno Guimaraes is an absolute baller as well. So that suddenly just goes bang. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think you also mentioned Lingard at the time as well, and that was another one that they were trying to get over the line as well. But as we mentioned, it looks like he was forced to stay, unfortunately. But the Bruno Guimaraes, he looks like he was interested. I think it was Arsenal that were interested in maybe. I think they put that in the promotional video just to rub it into Arsenal's face, which is a little bit cheeky. So moving on to Europe. Where else to start other than Mbappe?
Yeah. So it looks like he's gone to it. So Mbappe's signed the deal at Real Madrid, hasn't he? Looks like he's gone.
I was looking at the obviously I think everybody's seen the funds that he's going for. Obviously he's going on a free transfer. So, do you think you could live off, what was it? I think it was 90 quid every hour he was alive, something like that.
It's what, sorry, 90 quid?
90 quid every second minute he's alive, or something like that. It's just ridiculous.
I know, we're talking about this is a complete separate subject. We're talking about how much money is too much money, and it's not just football; it's everywhere in the world. Like, what are you gonna do with all that money? Do you know what I mean? There comes a point. It's like, how many fancy meals are you gonna have? Even if you had fancy meals every single day, the best you're gonna drive one car, you can have a fancy house. It's like you don't need it all. It's just greed in it. But obviously, it's greed, but then it's like players and people getting what they deserved, and that's just what it is. But yeah, no. Surprised you went? Are you surprised you went?
No. I'm just surprised it rumbled on for this long. Like, obviously his agent's got to do the best by him, and it's probably why it's took so long. But the only question that I had was whether he was going to sign with PSG again. I don't think he was ever going to sign for anyone else. There's pictures of him when he was a kid, with pictures of Ronaldo and every Real Madrid everywhere. So it seemed like that was his destination. But you look. The only question where I thought maybe he wouldn't go was because La Liga is not what it was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
In effect, you've got Real Madrid, and then the rest are trying to vie to challenge Real Madrid again. So, if you want a bit more of a challenge, but then again, he is a young lad. He is going to get another massive move at some point, and it wouldn't surprise me with the agent that he has. He's just run down that clock as well. But the only question is whether Real Madrid have managed to actually get him on a free. They can afford to pay him these wages. They're going to have to shell X amount of money on a transfer fee. They've saved on that. Will they do the same with Haaland and Haaland and Mbappe up top? We were talking on a podcast way back, Haaland or Mbappe.
Yeah.
Essentially, they could potentially get both.
I mean, this is probably it's going to be a separate podcast. It's about. It's interesting to talk about Mbappe then getting on a free and the money they're paying for him. I mean, Barcelona, we might talk about them now as well. Like, how have they managed to get? They weren't supposed to get anyone in, and I was told they could only get someone if Dembele left. Dembele's not left. They've got his 400 grand a week wage. They've got Aubameyang in, paying whatever. They've got Ferran Torres in from Man City. They've got Adama Traore in from Wolves. I mean, like, weren't they supposed to not buy any players in the summer? I don't know this. We talk about financial fair play and what's going on, and these big clubs, when UEFA pulls them, they'll just get a really expensive lawyer. I mean, the biggest thing any of this FFP needs is transparency, because it's absolutely taken us everyone for a ride. I mean, how do you afford to pay all that? I mean, Real Madrid will be like, they just keep reloaning and loaning and remortgaging the pitch and the training ground and go back to the bank, and the bank just funds them. I mean, it's like they're mourning about Man City and Newcastle now as well, but they're getting bankrolled by the Bank of Madrid or whatever it is. Do you know what I mean? So every time it's just a mess. It's a murky, dirty world, is football. Do you know what I mean? And we think as the higher up you go, it just seems to be more about power and how you can get away from the rules and not have to pay for what you have to do. So I just that's separate. Well, I just think, so Barca have obviously bought in all those players, and Real Madrid have got in Mbappe for next summer. So happy days for the Spanish Giants.
I just look at this Mbappe deal, and it reminds me of the Neymar deal. Where it was the start of the transfer fees going even crazier than what they were. But for me, this seems like it's now where the wages are going to go crazier than what they were, because someone sees Mbappe on that. Haaland's next. He's going to be the first £1 million a week player. Mbappe is not far behind that. I think he's just under that. Haaland's going to go to the next level, and where does it stop? It just leaves a really bad taste in your mouth. I wouldn't expect anything less from Real Madrid. But just moving on to Barcelona. Obviously, you mentioned Adama Traore. I would never have imagined that, 3 years ago, Adama Traore and Braithwaite, I think it was 3 years ago, 4 years ago, both playing for Middlesbrough Football Club, and now they're both up front for Barcelona FC.
I remember I saw some on, I think, I can't remember the social media site saying Barcelona break a samba longer away from recreating the Bullets front three of a few years ago. And I'm like, this is just like, this is bigger odds than Leicester winning Premier League, eventually getting back to.
Honestly, I can't believe it. Obviously, I like Adama Traore physically, the physicality of the player, the build of the play. He's not your traditional style, but it does give him that. No one can go near him, but he just does not have the end product. It just feels like he needs someone like a Klopp to kind of mold him into that, to that next level and give him something just to take him to that next level. But how do you see that signing going down? Because if he couldn't get he wasn't regularly playing for Wolves, maybe more so this season, but how do you think he's going to do at Barcelona?
I think he's got the right manager there. I think Xavi is getting these players. He's getting Spanish style players as well, isn't he? Do you know what I mean? So you've got Ferran Torres and he's got Adama Traore. They obviously need Aubameyang. They need a striker. They've got Luke de Jong, who's just like, it's like, what are you doing? It's like the fucking Matis or J. Rodriguez of La Liga. You know what I mean? It's like how he managed at Barcelona, managed to end up at Barcelona. So that is just stupid. So Aubameyang having to go down there, brilliant. So the front three of Adama Traore, Aubameyang and Ferran Torres looks okay now. Do you know what I mean? You're like, that's all right now. We could actually have a shot or something. So I think Traore will do well. And I'm just thinking our Nou Camp, massive pitch. Look at all that space for him to run in. I'm just thinking huge
one-on-ones be everywhere.
I know. You just like, what you do is just create 1v1 and just kick and run. You know what I mean? And that's all it is. Just like, you don't even need any. Don't worry about your step over because he's got the dodgy step over. I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Looking at
the kid's going to turn it. He's going to be a Ballon d'Or winner, isn't he?
I know. And it'd be like, Xavi just needed to mould him. And it's like, So I think it's a good sign. What they paid 30 million, like you're going to get that back even if it goes tits up, aren't you? Do you know what I mean? So they've not really paid a huge amount for him. So I think he's a really good signing for a good player.
Just before we leave Barcelona, Aubameyang, what do you think on that one? That was obviously it was crazy. Obviously it was almost like a Peter Wingy situation where he was back. He had family in Barcelona, so that's the reason that he was there. But it just so coincidentally happened that they were trying to get it over the line. And it was on 1 minute, it was off another minute, and then they said, Arsenal, we want you to pay part of the wages, and Arsenal were like this, fuck you. We're not anything, we want him off the books completely. A, how do you see his time at Arsenal? Will he be remembered fondly? And B, how do you think it will go on with Barcelona? Because he's clearly still a player there.
Yeah, I actually think he's been. I mean, what his attitude or how he is like, I don't know. I can't comment on that. It's whatever Arteta says.
I think we have an idea of his attitude.
Yeah, you get that. But I do think he has been. I mean, he's a number 9. He was asked to play on the left wing for quite a few games for Arsenal and played out of position. I'm like, he's just absolutely wasted. I remember the game he was playing at Anfield and he played on the left of it. So it's 4-2-3, he was playing on the left. And Liverpool just attack, and he's in the left back slot. I'm like, what are you doing with Aubameyang there? It's like absolutely pointless and useless having him there. Do you know what I mean? So I do think he's been played out position, but if he goes to Barcelona and the players are 9, he will score goals for Barcelona. He will be around better players, and I think he'll be a success. So for him to go there, 18 months, from what I've heard, is going to lose 15 million in 18 months, like taking a wage cut. So credit where credit's due. Can talk about bad attitude, but that's a lot of money for a player to give up to play for Barcelona. The other thing with Barcelona and Real Madrid is, regardless of what the financial circumstances are for them two have still got that pull of pulling in players because it's Barcelona and Real Madrid. You know what I mean? You're talking about Mbappe having a Ronaldo top on, and these clubs have got that in the locker. These players coming up will have those tops, and they'll in the future, if they ever become players, they'll have that pull to go play for Real Madrid. And we mean you obviously Liverpool fans, but can you imagine if anyway, we've got Liverpool, aren't we? Do you know what I mean? It's your club, so that's just it's having that pull. But I think going back to your original question, I think it's going to be a real good big success. Again, I just think everything. I think at Camp Nou, I just think that massive pitch and all that space for that pace to run in there. And he's a quality footballer as well. Let's not get away from that. He's a good quality footballer.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's going to flourish in a team which is going to dominate the ball. He always struggled when he played against the top, let's say 4, where he's getting hardly any of the ball. He needs to be on the ball. I just think he's flying at Barcelona. So it's just kind of surprising to me that there was no fee involved. But obviously, they just wanted him off the books. The massive wages that were involved in
just before we finish off on our last bit, just a shout out to Juve as well for the business they've done. So they've obviously done quite a bit of smart business actually. They've obviously got rid of players. But they've bought players in as well, and they spent the most in the window on the striker that Arsenal was supposed to be going after. But there seems to be quite a few players Arsenal was supposed to be going for and never do. So again, they just seem to be one of those clubs that do it all for the media and the show, but when it comes to it, sort of like, you know, don't pull the trigger. But Bentancur's gone to Spurs, obviously. Aaron Ramsey going to Rangers on loan. Kulusevski obviously going to Spurs as well. And then they bought in Zakaria, who I think Man United was supposed to be going for as well, but he's gone there. And then the big one, Dusan Vlahovic. So the massive £70 million striker, I'm trying to £75 million striker they paid for from Fiorentina. And he's an absolute baller. So yeah, so there's been some big signings across Europe, and just them three, I think especially Juve and Vlahovic, I think they've probably been the biggest ones.
Well, the signings that they needed, obviously, you know, I think they're like fifth or sixth in the league at the moment. That should push them over the line. Obviously, for Champions League football, I can't see them, you know, catching. Is it Inter at the top? I think Inter are flying at the moment. So yeah, good on them for that. But you mentioned it there, Aaron Ramsey. He's kind of being given an almost like a messiah welcome at Rangers. Would you say? I'm just trying to think. Would you say that this is the best signing that they maybe had in the last 10 years?
I heard a comment.
Anyone else?
I can't think of anyone, but I heard a comment from Annie McCoy. I think it was Annie McCoy saying it's the biggest signing Rangers have made since Gaza. And I'm struggling to disagree with that. Do you know what I mean? And I'm thinking, Aaron Ramsey is a big player for you to get. I expected him to go. What was it? It was Burnley. Burnley were after Ramsey. Ramsey turned Burnley down. I was like, I'm not that shit. Do you know what I mean? So Ramsey is a top 8, top 6 Premier League player. That's what I'd sort of put him. So for him to go from Juve to Rangers, I think that is, I can't disagree with that comment. I think that's it's a hell of a signing that for Rangers. And it's probably, you know, winning the league as well now with his quality.
Yeah. I don't know. I was basically done with Europe. I wanted to segue onto what would have been one of our favourite players. Are you ready to move on?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Go and crack on with it. I didn't throw you a curveball there. Did you talk about Juve?
No, that's fine. Obviously, in the Euros just gone, Kristian Eriksen was a sad moment, you know, brought tears to everyone's eyes. But thankfully, you know, he's back now playing. Inter Milan couldn't register the player as much as they probably want to, just because of the rules that are in Serie A, which obviously you covered in the last podcast. And now he's been given an opportunity. Well, first, must say that he was given an opportunity by a Step 7 club in, I think it was his home country. So good on them. And then you've got him going to Brentford, which is absolutely ridiculous for their fans. What about that signing? And I presume you're buzzing with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's the feel-good signing of the window, isn't it? You know what I mean? I remember speaking. You know, we spoke when he fell down, when he fainted, and we didn't know. And when we found out he was alive, I remember tweeting, and we spoke about it as well. We said, regardless of what happens in the rest of this tournament, this is a great tournament. The fact he's still alive. Do you know what I mean? And he's obviously he went away. You know, he had time with his family. He went back to Inter. Inter couldn't sign him because of the rules in Italy, and he's been training with his hometown club. Do you know what I mean? In Denmark, and that Thomas Frank used to be his manager when he was younger as well. So there was that link with them. Yeah. And I know there was murmurs of, you know, him going there, potentially Spurs as well. But for Brentford to go and give him a 6-month contract, I mean, if he does well, I'd imagine, you know, and everything health-wise is all right for him, and he's fine personally as well, and family's happy with it. I can't see why not he'd continue to stay there and play. Do you know what I mean? And he's obviously still, it's mad, isn't it? He's still got an eye. He's got his eyes on the World Cup, and at the end of the year. So he wants to get the games in and be ready for that. So I just think it's a brilliant story. I'm glad he's playing football. I didn't really care who he's going to, but to play in the Premier League and for him, you know, he's obviously going to be a great success for them. Sound like Borat there. Great success.
Brilliant. So echo everything that you just said. That was brilliant. So as always, at this time of the podcast, we have our question of the day, and I'm pretty sure you've got one lined up for us.
Are you really sure?
I don't know. We've had long enough to come up with this.
So guys, anyone that's new listening to us, we always do have a question of the day, and what we do is we never really plan it. So whoever's speaking always says, "So you've got a question of the day for us?" We damn it throw you to it. And so far we've been all right, and we've always managed to do it. But today's question of the day obviously is going to be transfer related. Question is really simple. Whoever you support, how would you rate your transfer window? So even if you're a Bradford City fan, like some of my mates are, they've got a couple of new ones in. Well, I'll say one's old, bringing back, and they've got rid of a few as well. Just let us know. Rate your window out of 10 down below, and we will reply
as well.
to
Middlesbrough got a load of good signings this summer. Sorry, Chris. Middlesbrough got a load of good signings in this window, so hopefully they will be pushing as well. A lot of my borough mates are now chirping up all of a sudden. I haven't seen them in about like 3 years. You know what I mean? They always like give me a call when Liverpool are losing. That's the only time I ever hear from them. But now they're back.
It was interesting. I did hear. So Jeff Hendrick, who was at Newcastle, has gone to QPR, and apparently Borough were after him, and they're trying to use the fact that it's in the northeast and keep him there. But he pied him off, and he went to QPR instead. But yeah, no. As always, guys, we say if you do get to this stage of the podcast, you must like something we're on about, anything. Just do us that favor. Like us, like the video, share it, subscribe to our channel, and you'll get a little notification every time we're on and we release something. But yeah, that's it from me. I think covers. We've not gone every club, but we've covered the main points. I think we have. But it's been a fun window, and I actually enjoyed yesterday's last couple of hours. When the transfer deadline ticked down, because I felt previous ones have been a bit boring and a bit nothing to it. Do you know what I mean? It was a bit more oomph to them yesterday. So anything from you before we say our goodbyes?
No. I thought it was great. We actually said that we were going to do 15 minutes, and I think we've kind of done a little bit longer than that. So yeah, I think we've covered just about everything on that one. Yeah. So yeah, that's bye from me.
See you guys. See you in the next one.
See you later, guys. See you later.